another beautiful Friday here on Star FM 96.6 on your Immigration Hour live on Star FM. Today we have another important unit of the Gambia Immigration Department, the Research and the Planning Unit of the GID, who will take us through a very important discussion with regards to the security sector reform. But before we go into the discussion proper, we will do the customary practices of at least allowing our panelists to introduce themselves, and then from there we go deep into the discussion. So then, how do you
Good afternoon, our beautiful out there to our beautiful listeners. My name is Asuke Biba. I'm the TYC Community Engagement Unit at the PRO's office.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sude Biba. So starting with the most senior, Commissioner, how do you feel to be here in the studio?
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. I am very, very honored to be here. I am Commissioner Saiduba, the one in charge of research, policy and planning. I am very, very happy to be here because the ultimate purpose of being here is for us to have a rundown of activities that we have undertaken as an institution towards the reform process. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We truly honored to have you on board, knowing that you are the brain behind the research and the planning unit of the GID. Also, you may kindly do this.
Good afternoon, listeners. My name is Yunus Sow. I'm the 2IC Research and Planning Unit of the Gambia Immigration Department.
Okay, thank you very much. So listeners, as you could all know, after the end of the 2016 election, there had been a lot of reforms that were established to be conducted within the country here. And as immigration officers, it is also part of our responsibilities to also discuss the commitment of the GID with regards to the SSR process. So the panelists we have in the studio today will take us through some of the accomplishments of GID towards the SSR process, but then you also have to get to understand the basic context behind the entire history of the SSR. So starting with you, Osiso, knowing that you have been in the limelight with regards to the SSR process, how would you tell the listeners out there the history behind the initiation of the security sector reform in the Gambia?
Thank you very much, PRO. Before going into that, let me first of all define what is security sector in the first place before going forward to define what the security sector different processes. Security sector, when you talk about it, is something that is broad. It's a broad body that describes the structures, institutions, and personnel responsible for management, oversight, as well as provision of security in the country. And seeing it as something that is broad, security sector can be categorized into 5 broad areas. First, you have the primary security institution, like the state security institution, like the Gambia Immigration Department. You have the Gambia Police Force, the Gambia Armed Forces. These are these are primary security institutions. So you also have the security management and oversight bodies within this executive. So that one has to do with the head of state, the government, and also the government ministries. For example, the Gambia Immigration Department. We are under the auspices of the Ministry of Interior. You also have the Gambia Armed Forces, for instance, is also under the auspices of the Ministry of Defense. You also have the parliamentary oversight bodies. Okay? So the parliamentary oversight bodies, for example, we have the National Assembly Standing Committee on Defense and Security. We also have the Finance and Public Account Committee. So these are all part of the security sector.
Okay, so basically,
yes,
knowing that we have different stakeholders involved in the entire SSR process.
Exactly.
What is the motive behind the initiation of the SSR process?
Yes, the motive behind the initiation of the security sector following the departure of the former president to equatorial Guinea, the new government, that took over the country realized that the security sector in the country was deeply politicized and polarized, and therefore it needed to be reformed to restore democratic government. So to start with that, they established SSR steering committee. This SSR steering committee, is responsible for coordination of SSR activity at the policy and strategic level. So this SSR steering committee commissioned a technical working group. That technical working group comprises of members from relevant ministries, all security institutions, the civil service organization, youth groups, and also women's groups. So their task was to go countrywide to assess the security sector, the security institution, so to inform the security sector reform program. So this was these technical working group went countrywide and assess the security institution, including the Gambia Immigration Department. Then they
So that is where our interest would lie.
Yes.
We want to understand how does the security sector reform in 2017 going down to all the other years of activities, how has it been able to also influence the activities of the GID in its own context? But then if you were to just outline, just in 2 or 3 sentences, what was the primary purpose of the security sector reform in the Gambia?
The primary purpose of the security sector reform in the Gambia was to re-engage the mission, the mindset, the structures, as well as the culture of the security institution, to make them more responsive, affordable, and accountable. That will cater for the security and justice of the Gambia based on democratic rules and principles.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We will take the translation of that discussion before we move to the commissioner. Sude, please be brief.
Okay, abarkabake bi mfele murtanale jan Star FM radio 96.6 and in the immigration Facebook live photo fanam be min kata kam bi aninga office o men soto jam bi mem do ko buna men soto jam na immigration na fanna la mem ko e ka fo mi ama research and policy unit min be na immigration do ko bunda be min kata kam bi wala minti e ka fo mi to ba ko SSR security sector reform ñimu fennete min non ko amunta ko question duro le kitamu ñinna ta wat bi ma ñinna ta 2016 samor kono kabri man sakunda membe no jako ta jangi man sakunda kuto do nata sita iya jeko na sidifano la doko bulanto ila doko be taka nyame ambetol nyafa nyin kamala ya jere itoli la mira roto a jetale ko o sidifano la doko e politiko dunda konole transfambulo fanamba konole be nata tinna fo ila doko mande nyafa ko pour ko wodum bondi kay yitandiri ke sidi fan do kula la ko molle yeto ta do ko wala molle atina ye o sidi fan do woto tram bulo manya membe bulo wo manya ka ke goni enta ka ke fenti menya ka bola anu in politiko fana manya ka ke fenti menya ka tare do ko kono because it will be mobile jam anu be masa kunda le jam anu masa kunda be binano nyaapri woto wo kamala inata ni tommo ndir ke molla ka bonna du sidi fan do ko dinkiral to ba loya dinkirato bam bulato tari ministry bam kata bulato tari ke chen sunyo kan pour kata tabba ko be murmuro ka jeko ini mole kacha ini mole hadamaya kaitan diko isi parendri ke nyinna ko iyela moy molle be min fole sidi fano la ko tani sidi fano la do ko tamangi nyala ko faye nyafa le fame nyafa fonyi dum itole min korosi foya jeje tonya wala bije mol fana wala je bam fu mol ma woje kabri o kel sindro be ke fo banku be murumuru mo ke na fa pareta kabri nata isita wotumo le nata ye safero menke tubabol ka fo mi report ye satare ke ko la e mim moy nan aniye mi jani to fo mi suute ka to kabri ta de lota man to ngol eni sidi fan do ko lali do ko ama katal sotole ani mo jamal banko kono ye wo mi katal men so re wolle safe ya ke kayto kono ya ki ma sakunda memu security sector reform ni report nyinti kabri man sakunda tata juda kesi kisa lonko to nya nyune mi safe de pule memil lonko ku so tere mo da nya nyanta lola le woto nga sementu ya wotu mo le man sakunda nata wuli ka wo kayto ni sai ka sediare ke ko isontale wole kayto men safe ko e lafta nyine ke wala nyine nyanta ka kenu ibe o se dian le baba mandla anata ke kayto de millo ko kayto bujar ma ande ba tamandika ko luwaya fo nyama baraka ba.
Okay, thank you very much today. Commissioner, so we would now take a look at a different dimension. Now, knowing that the genesis of the SSR was meant to understand the perceptions of Gambians about the security sector itself, and how are we able to engineer a better and more efficient security sector in the Gambia. As someone who worked at the Recycling Planning Unit, what were some of these general findings that this SSR was able to unveil to the public out there?
Yes, thank you so much, Pierre, for giving me this opportunity once again to talk to the general public on matters concerning the reform process of the Gambia Education Department. We understand during the regime came into existence, one of the things that they come to realize is that the former regime, the kind of security that was provided at the time, was regime-centered instead of being human-centered. So that is one of the reasons why the security sector reform was triggered as a process to be undertaken by state institutions, and then also which include also security institutions. But now coming down to the Gambia Immigration Department, we understand for a particular institution to undertake a holistic reform process, you must be guided by tools, and then these tools are always going to be provided in by what we call an assessment report. So in 2018, 2019, the Gambia Immigration Department come up with an assessment report, and this very document is the one that explains in detail what the Gambia Immigration Department needs as an institution in response to the specific recommendation made in the findings of the entire security sector reform. Because the security sector reform, we have general findings and we also have some specific findings. So the specific findings in that report, for it to be handled in a very, very efficient way, the department also needs to domesticate its own reform to making sure that the specific findings that is going to come up with, they are going to be a reflection of what is contained in the general report of the security sector reform. So the assessment report gives the department a leeway as to where to intervene, as a matter of urgency, and also where to intervene progressively in time. Because SSR, as we know, is a process. So it is something that needs, so much of time to be able to get the tangibles. So one of the key areas that the department looks into, as far as the assessment is concerned, is we have come to notice that the governing principles or the legal framework that define our existence, that define our operational capability, they are old in nature, they are obsolete in nature. So there is need for us to go back to those books to make sure they are repealed.
So in this case,
Yes.
if you make mention of the legal frameworks that guides the work of the department, what exact frameworks are we referring to in this context?
Okay, so here we are referring to our Immigration Act of 1965. We understand it was formulated in 1965, and then realities in those days are not reflecting what we need as an institution today. So it is not going to be in our interest as a country or as a department for that particular book to govern our operational activities as we speak today. And then the Aliens Registration Act of 1977, we know it is also very much old today. And then it is not also reflecting the things that we need as an institution today. So there is need for all these laws to be repealed to making sure that what we need as an institution is provided. Yes.
All right, so that means one of the findings of the SSR was the issue of legal frameworks that guides the work of the GID. Now, what effort has the GID made in relation to the legal frameworks of the findings? Jose, you want to chip in on that?
Yes, let me just add to what Commissioner has said. Of course, the legal frameworks was one of the findings that they made, that they highlighted by the security sector reform assessment. So the other thing was was the limited to absence of key institutional policies, okay, and also low level of gender mainstreaming.
Okay. So what I want us to do
yes,
is to look at these findings single-handedly,
Exactly.
and try to discuss what has GID done towards some of these findings. Now, for instance, with regards to the legal frameworks, what has GID done towards observing the assessment made by the SSR on the
Thank
matter?
you very much. In that respect, the Gambia Immigration Department developed a reform agenda, which also, inform the need for development of a strategic plan. And the Gambia Immigration Department in 2019 developed and launched its first ever strategic plan. And this strategic plan has 10 goals. And goal 1 of the security of the strategic plan, that is legislation and policy framework, is where this issue has been addressed. So regarding the activities or some of the progress that have been made in relation to our legal framework was in 2021, DICA, that is the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, supported the Gambia Immigration Department with the framework of strengthening the efficiency and the accountability of GID. So, that was launched, and basically they want to reform our policy and legal framework and also improve our oversight mechanism as well as enhance command and control. So regarding the laws, the Director General of Immigration, constituted technical working group. So this working group, among other things, we are tasked to look at the current Immigration Act of 1965 and come up with recommendations. So those recommendations were the technical working group with the support of DICA. That was done. And they come up with a recommendation which was internally reviewed by the department, and also a national consultation was convened, as well as national validation. So an immigration bill was developed.
So we were saying that as a result of the SSR, GID was able to take that commitment in developing a GID bill that will be able to help us in the reformation of all those legal frameworks. Before we go to translation, I just want to clarify. In your own view, Commissioner, how do you think this issue of the GID bill that had been implemented as a result of the SSR itself would be able to have an impact in the work of the GID in a broader context?
Yes, it will really have a very, very great impact, because, as I said earlier on, the current act in force was enacted in 1965. And then the realities in those days are not the same as the ones that we are faced with as a country today. So having a new act that is repealing the current act is going to help us, in our operational capacity, because it has provisions that reflect entirely our needs as an institution, to making sure that our potential as an institution they are realized. And perhaps before we get to the translator, there's one point that I also want to talk about. The bill is the overarching instrument. Is the overarching legal instrument. But then again, the bill is also, it needs to be translated in the reform policies. So it is the policy direction that will give an interpretation of what is contained in the bill. And it's also very, very essential as a unit or as an institution for us to know what stride have we taken as an institution to making sure that the specific provisions in the bill, how are they explained in the form of policies? So maybe later in the discussion
we will talk about the policies and how those evolve at the level of GID as well. So they will just briefly take the translation. Briefly, yeah.
Membe kata min jam ko nga fo nyam wala nyinti ko di SSR lo ko anata nyinin karo ke kayita ni ama nyinin karo ke nyin kamara kay pour sen yandiro sike kabri wo security sector di fo man sakunda ya wulinde ntolla do ko dinkira memu Gambia Immigration Department akay kon tol nga musin fa dale ta ka je ko man sakunda ni be wulinde ntol faranga kata da jumal ke ka je ko ntol faranga fajjeje anata nyile tandala kay tandala ko ni ajube immigration la do ko dinkirato bukol membe bulu ama maral kitabol membe bulu na immigration do ko dula membe na immigration act ani di alias registration act ni maral bukol ni kini woni membe immigration act adala da kabri samo mi na Gambia fa moy independence kabri wo samola 1965 samola ko bukol ni dala ni ajube molla tarambulo wo wato la ani bi molla tarambulo bi afata batale woto ngaajele ko a ñantale te a ñiñatale fana nga wobu ko ñi landi karala nga buku do bondi nan même ni molla taram bulo ani molla bidaji kol si tebeno ñame pour tamadi na do ko la tamadi nyasi so nyame bulu inata o dadale e katano ya kedaje ye banko be mun mo ke kay tan ni molla bu ko ñi ye munefo ani mune be safari bu ko kono ani it mune atinna foy ton ni wo bu ko la ama safero ñi wultana mo kata ke da foy benda inata samba dula pour national consultation fana wo ibe banko be ama kata fana ke wo fana ke da fa pare da wo bu ko ñi be pare da bije wo bu ko ñi soto rin kola inata bu ku ba do safe ka fo mi ko immigration bill wo immigration bill ni amunta ko wala bina kila maral kitabu bati membe sembo ni kamo di adillo kamo dila immigration la pour ina do ko sambanya taramola ani ibe marale la ko wala no nyaadile ani be marale la mol la membe do ko la gambe immigration dinkirato nyame ani isi kembol ki fana yemil loko isi tarano luwaye luwa kotola bare kala ka taran luwaye sampola abara.
Thank you very much. So if you want to join the discussion, you can call on 788-6966, 788-6966. If you want to understand GID's commitment towards the security sector reform, you can call on 788-6966. Commissioner, before we went to the translation, we were talking about policies. And among the key findings of the SSR includes internal policies that are able to regulate activities of the security sector. So what effort has the GID made with regards to policy-related issues?
Thank you so much. The Gambia Immigration Department has been operating or have been handling administrative matters or operational matters without being guided by policies. And then when that happens, it gives the opportunity for everyone to think from on top of your head and then do whatever you want. And then the reform also dictate that there needs to be the existence of guidelines that will determine who does what and then who is also going to be responsible for what. And even if you are also conducting an activity, that particular activity has to be guided by a policy directives. So in that regard, as an institution, we've managed to develop a series of policy documents that are meant to guide our operational activities as an institution. And one of them, to tell you, is we have a promotion policy, which was not existing before, because like in those days, the way it happens in that way. But then the reform have triggered the need as an institution for us to have an underlying document called the promotion policy that determines, the elevation or the promotion of a particular officer. And we also have what we call a vehicle control policy. We understand we are a state institution, but then again, the way we use our official vehicles need to be regulated. So we have developed also a policy in that regard. So the policy documents that we have developed as an institution in matters connected to our operational activities, they are so much. We have also a performance appraisal as a policy. Okay, these are all documents that we have internally developed just to make sure that actions and activities are guided by policy directives. Yes.
Just in your opinion,
yes.
This could be a short answer. In your opinion, do you think GID's progress on the SSR reform with regards to policies and also legal frameworks is to standards?
Yes, it is very much. It is really very much impressive as far as GID is concerned, and our commitment as an institute is also concerned. We have gone very, very far in making sure that the specific recommendations made for us as an institution, they are they are respected.
Okay.
We have done very well.
In reality,
yes.
In reality, you talked about the promotion policy, for instance. Would you be able to outline one accomplishment that GID was able to accomplish because of one of these policies you've mentioned before? Just one particular accomplishment.
Yes, we have so many, but just to give you one accomplishment is that this last, for example, promotion, one of the determinants for for an individual to be promoted is you have to be appraised, and that appraisal is also triggered by a policy document. So you have to be appraised by your supervisor, and based on the appraisal by your supervisor, that's what is used as a determinant for your promotion as an individual. So that is an accomplishment.
So
it's for the first time.
Promotions are not based on sentiments or personal opinions.
They are not based on long hands.
Okay.
They are based on what is provided in your appraisal form.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So we would move to a different fold. I know Ozi is also itching to come over. But in Ozi, we've talked about the legal frameworks as one of the findings of the SSR process. And then we understand that GID has worked together with the CAF to work on a GID bill that is going to work on reforming most of these archaic and old-fashioned laws we have that regulates our activities. We've also talked about the issue of having administrative policies that guides GID's operation, what other finding of the SSR had been of interest to the GID after the report?
Another thing that was found or that was revealed by the SSR was that was low level of gender mainstreaming in the security sector. Gender mainstreaming, they found that, majority of the security institutions, all the security institutions in the Gambia, okay, decisions where, especially where decisions are made, are mostly dominated by men. Okay, female officers, majority of them were found at the tactical level. So we'll see that there are certain needs of women, different needs of women that need to be addressed, and that to better address those needs, they need to be represented at the strategic level where decisions are going to be made that will have, impact their life. Okay, so in doing so, as part of the reform process, they can also intervene, in this aspect. So just this year, around June 2024. 2 policies were developed. That is the gender policy as well as the sexual harassment policy. But then before that, a scoping study was conducted in GID in 2020 to better inform, how gender is being mainstreamed in the Gambia Immigration Department. And based on their findings, they were able to develop a gender policy which was validated this year.
Okay, that looks quite amazing. Knowing the fact that gender equality and gender equity have been a contemporary debate that we have in most global affairs. When we talk about trying to promote women leadership, trying to promote that gender parity when it comes to office, it's quite important. And the fact that you're able to have a gender policy and a sexual harassment policy in play, that's also going to be an interesting point to discuss about. But I will have to come to you, Commissioner, for you to tell us the essence of those bills or those particular policies you have at the GID. But briefly, so they will just help us with the summary of what we discussed.
Okay,
if you say summary, it becomes to him a comprehensive passage.
Abarkabake Siman, another yin karoke Commissioner Seydou Bala Kaitandara ko. Alin kunko me wala menno alla policy document solti ali kitabol men dada nim kitabo mu ya ansa fodo kunko ne bar wo kunko nyin kono falla kamanya dol sotole ba akai ha nada kamanya wol dol sotole o kamanya wol wolle kayti ndimol ki men dada ka buna wo kunko ba wo kayti ba kono men be larin ko après ça policy ti pour momo jadi be la makamo la fala do ku dinkirado foy la nyaaton ko be mi do ko la min ko to fa mari lo a foko kari de abe do ko lantel ko bara abe tenne wotay mo woy min safe e ka wole landi ke ba to ni be sirin pour ka tombondiri ke men la makamu nyanta la fala ani men la makamu manyal la fala ni makam la fala wato si do kayto le min safe ka samana woto e ka wokayto le jube amma ke nyiti ka foko kari dimol wala kari bari dimol wala kari le diatani o wala kari man diane hani kayto le be laari e ka wokayto le jube kama la fala nyike akai ni wo fana botaje akai ko folisi sedi yaro dinne wala sedi kili dinne no ko ala kay to la men doku ay kuul sial male ba akai ni makam la femme tambi la santen gulay karo ni kono akai ko abe wolle kon ka fi ya do makam la fa keda nyabe aketale hani diam kili manke muni asabu wo makam la fa kay to ngamin dada be mo après ça forme ama après ça bilki wala e mon ma ko fo dia meso manna wuri no makamu la fanyi to kato menyanta ananyanta wato minna ananyanta nyame na kinu wala nyam wala tuna dia mo manna sia anata nyini ga ko ga kako fu nyindu Allah kay di dol fana ko kay di dol le fana bije imam min fo bakay ha aka musol la maranya ani musol la taro makamo do ko dikiram aka miya juge nunto musol men katara nim place bato kacha men ka si e ka kacha ke e ka biate ke kuma wala ka kacha kula men be do ko dingira ni sambala nyato musol la sembo mo waram nge baaki barka bari ngam na nyin kay to dala alhamdulillah rabbil alamin ala na tan dema musol na ta lafa wala makamo te min lo ko si pour ka kacha ke kula wala ka kuma fo wala ka ka si ka denkan na ka foko nyine nyanta kala ni wati la ani ni wati kare ani ni bula ako musol si ale be baki wo be na so ko nyala nyin kay to ngam min dada abot na mole ko kam amara.
Okay, thank you very much, Sude. Commissioner, so prior to having the translation again, we've talked about another important finding of the SSR, which is issues that relates to the gender parity and gender mainstreaming. Now, when the threat assessment of the SSR was also done, one of the key indicators there also talked about sexual and gender-based violence. So this would indicate to us that the security then have seen a lot of threats when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence. Now, what do you think is that level of commitment that the JID has? Now that they've already gotten the policies, they've already have the gender policy and also the sexual harassment policy. How committed is the department in trying to implement most of these policies? Because usually in the government context, we're very good at having policies developed. But then when it comes to implementing them, that's where we have a challenge.
I agree.
So what is your assessment of GID's level of commitment in implementing this kind of policies?
Yes, the commitment of the department is very much impressive because I will tell you this for very good reasons. At times I talk about this because, but then again, it's not a competition to say. The Gambia Immigration Department is the only security institution in this country that has a gender and sexual harassment policy. It is an existing reality, but again, not to mean less of others. But it's good we talk about this one, our audience also get to know about it, as a way of measuring our commitment as an institution. And the department has been so much mainstreaming. They have been mainstreaming so many things, so many of the activities that are done internally when it comes to allocation to positions, and then also when it comes to recruitment, and then when it comes to promotion. We have looked into gender as one of the determinants because to tell you a provision in the promotion policy, it says where a male officer competes with a female officer and they have the same qualification, gender will determine who becomes the winner. And then it means that, that particular position is going to be given to a lady. So we have it clear cut.
Okay, Commissioner, do you think that is fair enough? I mean, if you're talking about gender equality,
yes.
do you think